Chapter 41. The Interrogation. The second layer of the stone chest revealed three carvings. The first depicted four people standing in front of the open chest, with three of them featureless, similar to the ordinary human shapes seen in previous illustrations. However, one figure had a single eye atop its head and two serpent-like fangs within the circle denoting its head, along with its limbs. It clearly resembled the guardian god of the Black Tower's fourth level, though it would be more apt to call it a malevolent spirit given its form. The mere sight of this figure, distinguished by only a few extra strokes, sent chills down my spine. It was just Fatty, myself, Professor Chin, and Shirley Young left. Out of us four, who could be the malevolent spirit? The second and third carvings, placed side by side, showed two different outcomes. In one, the three people together with the one-eyed evil spirit open the chest, at which point the spirit attacks and eviscerates the others. In the alternate scenario, the malevolent spirit lies on the ground, decapitated and defeated, while the three people open the second layer of the chest, revealing a passage that grants them escape. Could it be that the seer was offering us hints, allowing us to choose our own destiny? The dilemma seemed insurmountable. Fatty and I were as close as legs on the same body. Neither could function without the other. Professor Chun had always been kind-hearted and generous towards me, and Shirley Yang had saved my life. I couldn't possibly harm any of them, regardless of which might be the spirit. Had I not known about the seer's predictions, I might not have feared, but the long-deceased prophet's prophecies had been alarmingly precise. Did that mean one among us was truly a malevolent spirit? It didn't matter whether this entity was possessed by an evil spirit or had always been masquerading as a human. The fact remained, we had to face it. If we didn't eliminate the hidden evil, the opening of the second stone chest would mean our deaths and entombment here. Who could be the malevolent spirit? It wasn't me, and watching Fatty's familiar, carefree expression reassured me it couldn't be him either. His eyes, as always, expressed a disregard for anything that stood in his way, almost as if saying, "I'm the best in the world, and I'll beat anyone who says otherwise." It couldn't be us two, so was it possible? Stealing a glance behind me, I saw Shirley Yang and Professor Chun. Shirley Yang was looking straight at me, and I couldn't hold her gaze, pretending to look elsewhere instead. Seeing Fatty and me whispering after opening the stone chest, Shirley Yang asked, "Old who? What's inside the chest?" I squeezed my eyes at Fatty, signaling him. Understanding, he promptly pretended to sit down and rest, conveniently shielding the open chest from Shirley Yang's view. I needed to stabilize the situation and think of a plan before taking any action. I lied to Shirley Yang, saying, "There's nothing inside the chest. It's empty." She asked no further and sat down, pulling out her canteen to offer Professor Chen a drink. But the professor, having lost his senses, knocked the water bottle to the ground, laughing madly as he stomped his feet. It was the last of our water, and Shirley Yang hurried to collect the spilled canteen, though more than half was wasted. Fatty whispered to me, "What do we do now? Should we deal with them both?" I cut him off. "No, we can't make any rash moves before things are clear, or we might regret it later. We can rule out each other as suspects, right?" "Of course," Fatty agreed. "We know ourselves, don't we? I reckon that American girl is the most suspicious." I suggested, "We should still go through the motions, so later on, if we have to take action, Miss Young and Professor Chun can't fault us." Fatty scoffed, "Damn, power comes from the barrel of a gun. What's the use of reasoning? We just topple those two, interrogate them, and if that doesn't work, we resort to harsh measures, and if that doesn't work, then—" He made a chopping motion with his hand. Hearing Fatty's words about power coming from the gun reminded me of a tactic. The malevolent spirit must have escaped from the ancient Jingjue kingdom and wouldn't have lived through the Cultural Revolution. These demons wouldn't have engaged in political study or kept up with the news. Their human disguises may not be informed about the outside world. So I told Fatty, "The fact that you just mentioned power coming from a gun proves you're not the malevolent spirit. Now test me, and I'll prove myself too, then we'll question the other two." Fatty scratched his head. "All right, recite a poem from the chairman." Without a second thought, I recited, An international dirge I sing as the wild tempest crashes down from the heavens. Right? Fatty confirmed. You're definitely not the malevolent spirit. Shirley Yang, astute as she was, noticed Fatty and I whispering continuously and realized there might be a problem. She stood up and walked towards us. What exactly are you two whispering about? Why talk behind my back? Fatty and I leaped up from the ground, warning her, stop right there, or we won't be polite anymore. Shirley Yang was taken aback. What's gotten into you two? Fatty said nonchalantly, nothing. We just want to hear you sing a song. How about the Order of Commander Lin descends? Shirley Yang was utterly bewildered by the request. In a situation like this, after several companions had died and with us in the face of imminent danger, who would have the mind to sing, let alone such a specific song from the time of the Liberation War? It was all nonsensical to her. In my mind, I also thought Fatty's request for that particular song was inappropriate. How could a young American woman know such a song? But how else could we test her? Who's the current president of the United States? Even I wouldn't be sure about that. Trying another approach, I took out a black donkey hoof and said convincingly to Shirley Yang, don't ask so many questions right now. Just take a bite of this, then give it to Professor Chen to bite. Just do as I say. It'll only do you good, no harm. Shirley Yang was visibly annoyed. Have you lost your mind too? This donkey hoof is for warding off evil spirits. I'm not eating it. Keep it away from me. Her refusal only made her seem more suspicious. I shot a glance to Fatty, who without a word, went over and pinned Shirley Yang to the ground, stripped off his belt, and bound her hands and feet. Her face turned from flushed to pale with anger, and she gritted her teeth. Hu Ba Yi, are you trying to silence me because I've uncovered your tomb-robbing scheme? Let me go, both of you. Professor Chen, on the other hand, seemed to find the whole scene amusing, laughing uproariously, drool dripping from the corner of his mouth. My heart sank at the sight, such a learned elder brought to this sorry state. Yet, we couldn't rule him out as a suspect until we cleared up the situation with Shirley Yang. With a heavy heart, I confronted Shirley Yang. Are you, or are you not, the Queen of Jingjue? Outraged, she retorted. Hu Ba Yi, what nonsense are you spouting? I replied coldly, I think you are possessed by that demon queen, or perhaps you are her reincarnated. Otherwise, how could you dream of the details within the ghost cave? And how would an American girl like you know our tomb-robbing terminology? Fatty had been suspicious of Shirley Yang from the start, and now he saw his chance. Pulling out his dagger, he slammed it into the ground. Who? You handle her. She knows we're tomb raiders, which isn't surprising since demons can read minds. It's no use asking her. Let's give her a couple of cuts on her face and see if she starts talking. He moved as if to do just that, seeing Shirley Yang fighting back the tears swelling in her eyes, not flinching at the sight of Fatty's dagger, but instead looking straight at me. My heart softened. I remembered owing her my life after she had saved me in the Zaglama mountain valley. How could I possibly harm her now? I hastily intervened to stop Fatty. Wait, let's first explain to her our policy of dealing with prisoners. If she continues to resist, then we can resort to other measures. Fatty reluctantly agreed. I really don't want to ruin such a pretty face, but we must be wary of her tricks and the temptation of her beauty. Hearing our exchange, Shirley Yang became increasingly upset, to the point of crying fiercely. She gasped for words. I don't know why I dreamt of the ghost cave. I'm familiar with your tomb-robbing lingo. It's because my grandfather was in the same line of work as you before he went abroad. He's the one who told me all about it. I had hoped to discuss this with you later. Now that I've said everything, if you two want to kill or shave me, go ahead. I must have misjudged you. Fatty scoffed, doubting her sincerity. Pretty words, playing innocent. Keep making things up. Old who, what's your stance? How should we handle this? I took out the black donkey hoof and held it near Shirley's mouth. Just bite this. All you have to do is bite, and I'll let you go right away. But Shirley was defiant. Just kill me now. Otherwise, I'll never forgive you. I won't let go even in death. When she resisted the black donkey hoof, I took the dagger from Fatty. Internally, a voice questioned whether I could really strike her down if she turned out to be the malevolent spirit. The clear answer was no, But without taking action against the evil spirit among us, we'd all face death in this small tomb chamber. I was caught in a severe internal struggle, wondering if we were all destined to die here together. While I wrestled with my thoughts, Professor Chan stood up, laughing incoherently and acting crazier by the minute. Fearing he might open the second layer of the stone chest, I reached out to stop him. He burst out laughing. Flowers! So beautiful. The reds, the greens, the ones I have found. Ha ha ha. I watched the professor's madness, his ramblings about flowers prompting a memory. It wasn't something I had seen, but a story I had heard about the surviving British explorer. Suddenly, a tangled web of thoughts in my mind unraveled, and a fine thread emerged that I latched onto. The corpse flower. Were we still trapped within the illusion it had spun? The demonic flower from hell still had us within its clutches, luring us into turning on one another.